Science daily defines social inequality as relational processes in society that have the effect of limiting or harming a group's social status, social class, and social circle. But in the world of sociology, social inequality is characterized by the existence of unequal opportunities and rewards for different positions or statuses within a group or society. So there is a positive and a negative definition of social inequality, but what is it in our terms? To us, social inequality is a process in society where a group is limited in opportunities and rewards due to factors such as gender, race, social class, and religion. Social inequality pertaining to these factors is prominent in our everyday life and surrounds all aspects of it. The way people behave socially through racist or sexist practices and other forms of discrimination tends to trickle down and affect the opportunities and wealth individuals can generate for themselves. From corporations to the employees and to their families further on, practices that enforce social inequality trickle down and affect different categories in a person's life.
So traditionally, from a biological standpoint, sex is recognized in two categories, either male or female. Based on reproductive function, gender, however, is a state of being either male or female or some combination in between. This is separate from the sex of a person and is typically used in reference to social and cultural differences rather than biological ones. There are implicit biases associated with all genders, ranging from the acceptance of some to the treatment of others. In a social experiment by OCK-TV, they demonstrated domestic abuse and violence out in the public. So half of the experiment involved a man abusing a woman, while the other half reversed it had a woman abusing a man. Now, the study found that strangers quickly reacted to the man abusing the woman, but never reacted when the woman abused the man.
By definition, racial inequality is the disproportionate treatment of a person that occurs as a result of their race. For example, in 2014, the median household incomes for whites was $71,300 compared to $43,300 for blacks. But for college-educated whites, the median household income was $106,600, significantly higher than the $82,300 for households headed by college-educated blacks. Minorities are undeniably discriminated against in the criminal justice system. This begins even before being arrested or convicted, as police departments disproportionately target minorities in the investigation of suspected criminal activity. Officers are much more likely to be suspicious of a minority than of a white citizen. As a result of this system, prisons are packed with inmates whose racial makeup is vastly disproportionate to the makeup of the country. An example of this discrimination is the stop-and-frisk tactics used by the NY police officers on the streets. Since 2002, more than 4 million street interrogations have taken place, the majority of these being against minorities and 9 out of 10 being completely innocent. 5 times as many whites are using drugs as African Americans, yet African Americans are sent to prison for drug offenses at 10 times the rate of whites.
People are also often treated unequally based upon their religion. Faith defined as the service and worship of God or the supernatural, commitment or devotion to the religious faith. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibited employers from discriminating against individuals because of their religion, but does nothing to fix personal biases. In the United States, Muslims and people of Islamic faith are seen as suspicious and untrustworthy, while in the Middle East, Christians are treated just as poorly. Islamic State forces demanded people to convert or to be executed. Events like church attacks, disappearances, and other killings are commonplace. Religious inequality is most evident globally, with entire countries and regions having bias against each other.
For years, people have attempted to amend discrimination, but there is still much work to be done. Some landmark documents include the United States Constitution, aimed at giving civil liberties to all, and the Civil Rights Act of 1964 by John F. Kennedy, which ended public segregations and banned employment discrimination. Before this was the 14th Amendment, attempting to free slaves but falling short of this goal due to the United States criminal justice system. Each of these documents are progress towards the social equality of America, but more must be done.
Recent developments in equality include landmark Supreme Court case Obergefell v. Hodges on June 26, 2015. The court ruled in a 5-4 majority stating that denying gay marriage was unconstitutional. This marked a huge jump for sex and gender rights. Also notable is the rights of women in Middle Eastern countries after the Arab Spring. A 2011 study by Booz & Company asked a group of young Arab women what should be the role of young women in society. 71% of respondents said it was to seek employment for financial support and financial independence, whereas only 22% saw their role as housewives and mothers. This is a slow improvement for a very restricted group and shows promise for their futures in equality.
Hello everybody, thank you all for tuning in on a new episode of Social Inequalities. Today we will be discussing sex and gender inequalities, but from the eyes of a high school senior. Now why did we choose a high school senior to discuss this topic with us? Simply because it can give us a view on it from a school standpoint, social media standpoint, and public standpoint. So please welcome Charlie Ortiz.
Thank you a lot, Joceline. It's really cool to actually be here and do this.
No problem. Have you ever participated in a podcast before?
Yeah, no.
That's fine, it's pretty easy. So let's get started. First question, Charlie. Do you believe that sex and gender inequality exists?
Oh man, of course. So basically it's everywhere. People just don't realize that they're looking over it when really it's a much more bigger issue than what it seems. Now, I don't blame a lot of people because some people tend to get this mixed up with manners. So check me out. It's good manners to open the car door for a woman and when walking on a sidewalk to make sure she's further away from the street than you are, so you know you're closer to the cars. But anyways, now what isn't manners, but instead of inequality is when you go to the public, let's say the mall, and you see a man carrying like 23 bags for both belonging to him and his woman. You consider that normal, right? But imagine if a girl was carrying the bags instead of the guy. Now don't get me wrong, I believe that a woman shouldn't have to carry all the bags, nor should a man have to either. This is how society paints this picture of us, how a man should carry all the bags is fine, but for a woman it's not. Now this isn't the only picture society painted for us.
Interesting. So do you believe that sex and gender inequality exists because of society and how we act?
Somewhat. I mean, it's not all society's fault. Like men were raised to have manners. I know not all of us were raised like that because, I mean, of course, different factors within our lives, but majority of us were. Now, I think with that being said, society's got a misunderstanding of the whole idea of manners and how to use them and how they're supposed to be used towards a woman. Now, a man should always have manners towards a woman no matter what in his life. If he doesn't, then he isn't a man. Simple as that. But women shouldn't have to abuse that concept and idea of men having manners and try to do outrageous things without being an excuse. Like, don't get me wrong. I'll let a woman go first in line. I'll hold the door for a woman. I'll walk them to their car or front door. But if you can't have the manners back or at least say thank you for me doing all this stuff, then you wild. Think I'm gonna continue to do all that. It don't work like that.
What about how we act?
So, I mean, like, yeah, definitely. The way we act and things such as social media combined really play a part in this whole inequality. Like, let me break it down for you guys. So, today's music industry, you got a ton of rappers, right? Now, some rappers nowadays tend to rap about anything as long as it has a good hook or a good beat, because that's what sells. Like, I'm like, anything, as long as it has a good hook or good beat, it sells. Like, I just, you know... Man, pause. Now, some rappers nowadays tend to rap about anything as long as it got a good hook or a good beat, because that's what sells. Like, you got, like, I just fucked your bitch in some Gucci flip-flops, or I just want you for the night, yada yada. You know, don't get me wrong, don't get me wrong, I'm not getting mad at them. That's their hustle, you know, you gotta do whatever it takes to pay the bills. But it's messing with people's head, man, especially my generation, and they think that's okay. Like, let's say, for example, I would go and I would say, oh, I did this chick at school, I did this girl, I done did her, and guess what? At the end of the day, they're gonna look at me like I'm the man. You know, I done did all these girls at the school, and all my boys gonna look at me like, yeah, I'm the man, I'm that guy. And it's really messed up because that's not right. But you take that and you go to a woman and you have her to say the same thing. Oh, she's a hoe, she's a slut, she's this, she's that. Like, oh, she gave this dude some pussy, but she didn't give me none? Like, what's up with that? See, it ain't right, man. It sucks, man. It really does to think that that's the kind of world that we live today.
Alright, we're almost finished. So, do you think sex and gender inequality is overlooked?
Absolutely. But I don't mean that in any disrespect to anyone. People overlook sex and gender equality all the time, but they just don't realize it. Like I said before, let me explain this with domestic abuse. Okay, so let's say you have a couple walking on the plaza, right? Next thing you know, they're arguing, they're getting into it, and the next thing you know, this guy doesn't think, and he starts hitting and pushing on the girl. People will be quickly to help the girl out, stop the guy, grab him, throw him to the ground, they'll be real quick to react. But let's switch it up now and say the girl was hitting the guy, beating him, yelling at him, yada yada. People are just gonna walk past and look at them like, what the hell? Like, they just gonna be looking like she crazy, but they ain't gonna do anything because it's a man, right? He should be able to defend himself. But nah, domestic abuse is a serious thing, and people need to know that. But don't act like it because it's just, a guy being abused. That's the whole thing that makes them difference. And that's the inequality I was just talking about, people overlooking simply because it was a guy getting beat up and not a girl. Now, trust me, it happens. People really get beat up, both guys and girls. And there are some crazy girls in this world, trust me, I know for a fact.
Oh, so we're crazy, huh? No, I'm just playing. The last question to wrap this up. How do you think we as people can fix this inequality issue?
Don't be so quick to judge. Just think about it before you say something. Treat people equally no matter what. If something a girl does looks bad, then it should look bad if a guy does it too. Like I said about you do a whole bunch of people at school, it looks bad for a girl, then it should look bad for a guy. It shouldn't look good for a guy and bad for a girl. No, that's a bad thing in general. Now, vice versa as well. The situation doesn't change simply because it's a victim, either a boy or a girl. Treat boys and girls the same as far as their sexual preference goes, but really just stop the whole negativity. If all the negativity that person spread today was replaced with love or just positivity, then we would all be happier, no doubt. That's just a big step, and some people are just barely learning how to walk.
Great statement. Well, alright, thanks again, Charlie, for doing this with us, and thank you everyone for tuning in today. We'll be back next week for a new episode on social inequality. Special thanks to ScienceDaily.com, Inequality.org, NAACP.org, CNN.org, and NewsActivist.com for providing us with the research we needed to complete this podcast. Stay tuned.